Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the fourth webinar session of ProTalk, which is organized by Mohs10 Technologies. And today we have the topic Generative AI and why does it matter? Today we will deep dive into the world of artificial intelligence, focusing on its transformative impact. Sumitra, delighted to be your host for today's session. We have our distinguished speaker, Dr. Srinivas Padmanabhuni, who will be sharing his invaluable insights with us shortly. So, Dr. Padmanabhani, the esteemed co-founder and CTO of AIensured, holds a PhD in artificial intelligence. He has been the past president of ACM India, the top professional organization of computing professionals. He is the chief mentor for Tara Technology, an AI consulting and training company. He specializes in areas of software engineering, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Earlier, he was a principal research scientist and associate vice president at Infosys, where he overlooked the university innovation ecosystem and alongside the research and innovation groups in Infosys labs. So, AI is not just a buzzword, it is the technology that is shaping the future of industries and societies worldwide. Today, we have the privilege of learning from one of the pioneers in this field, Dr. Padmanabhani, whose work has not only pushed the boundaries of AI but also inspired countless professionals on this field. So let's welcome Dr. Padmanabhani. So a very warm welcome to you, sir. Now the stage is yours.
Thank you. So thanks for the opportunity, and it will be a pleasure on my part to talk about this upcoming area in AI called generative AI. So let me give you a broad history. In the first, we are actually going through what I call as the third generation AI, which is so close to us, the generative AI trend. So the first wave of AI started in 2000, very early on in actually 1956, when John McCarthy and all, Marvin Minsky started this topic and said that, okay, let's create something which is emulating human intelligence. So they started work on different aspects, like how to capture the reasoning aspect of human, the planning aspect, how to represent knowledge, how do you do pattern recognition, etc. Then in 2012, we had a second wave of AI, which is basically the deep learning wave, which actually made AI very popular for business because of its ability to work with images, videos, unstructured data like audio, text, etc. That gave huge amount of boost to real applications like driverless car, medical imaging recognition, medical diagnosis, or large scale textual spam filtering or large scale search engines to be built, etc. And that actually shot off the popularity of AI. And that within 10 years, we reached areas in our human life which are affected by AI. And the third wave, which started actually as an extension of the deep learning, is 2022 November, December launch of ChatGPT, which started this whole trend of generative AI. So if you look at the whole idea of generative AI today, the third wave is quite popular and viral. It is like really showing huge potential, not just in terms of the way it is catching up to help out in our life, but also from a business perspective. So according to one estimate, according to them, generative AI is about to become a trillion plus 1.3 trillion market by 2032. That's a huge amount. So let's look at the history perspective of AI, right? As I said, first wave of AI was about creating artifacts which could help making human processes being doable by machines. And then the second wave, which is the deep learning wave, which is a subset of machine learning, is primarily geared towards how are you able to recognize patterns in unstructured data like images, text, audio, video, etc. So machine learning is the heart of AI, where we do pattern recognition from raw data. And that is what gives us the power of understanding something like what humans do, like computer vision helps us in seeing. Speech analysis helps in speech understanding like a human. And similarly, text analysis with NLP helps in emulating human capabilities of working with text, for example. Or if you want to do simple pattern recognition from classical structured data, that also is quite possible with machine learning. Now, coming to what is this whole new beast called as generative AI. So basically, generative AI is quite different from all the wave in the first wave and second wave of AI in the sense that we actually could not, create things which could generate new stuff in the older two waves of AI. Those are primarily about recognition of patterns or discriminating one object from another. So that's broadly called as discriminative AI. So the pattern recognition was mainly to distinguish one from the other. Whereas generative AI is the new class of AI systems which are able to generate new content. It could be text, audio, poems, movie scripts, movies, videos, anything. And these are based basically on generative models which are trained to understand patterns in existing data. But that is not where it stops, which is the classical AI, right? But then we move on to generate new similar data. So the generative AI is beyond just understanding patterns. It's about creating new data. So what is exactly inside this whole generative AI? At the heart of generative AI is a concept of something which is based on, as we saw here, understand patterns in existing data. But here, one big difference between classical discriminative AI and here is the data is really huge. So when I say large language models, which is at the heart of generative AI, they're basically type of machine learning model that excel in understanding the patterns in large input data that's been given, and they are able to generate human-like language. So basically, if you look at this whole revolution started with natural language rather than images, which is basically, if you look at the second wave of deep learning, it's more focused on images, computer vision related, like revolutionizing. Here we're looking at language. It started out with ChatGPT, which is a language-based thing. But it has extended to other modes also. So today we have multimodal LLMs, right? Which has able to work with videos, PowerPoints, images, text, etc. What are the main requirements for LLM? You need to be trained on massive data sets. So if you look at in terms of what these LLMs are counted on is how many input text tokens has it been digested. So today we're going to billions. Sometimes some of the new ones are coming up with trillions of tokens from internet, different kinds of data sets which have been put in. Fine tuning for specific tasks. Suppose you have some large model. Can you keep it and work for specific task? And in some cases, you have to give local context of taking the original data and then making it perform very specifically for one context. And in that context, do the generation of the relevant whatever you call as the relevant image or the relevant text or the relevant video generation. So what are the primary differences from the classical AI? We are talking about generating data here. Second thing is the underlying architecture. While in the deep learning, we're focused on different kinds of neural networks, but most of the LLMs are focused primarily on one architecture, which is basically based on the idea of self-supervised learning called as transformer architecture, which is one kind of a neural network. And then the second important part is, are you able to generate huge amounts of input data on which this whole architecture can be trained? So generative AI is successful because of the fact that they have been trained on large data sets. That is why ChatGPT is so powerful. It's able to understand more like an open-ended AI. See, why I'm saying open-ended is because, there have been chatbots before ChatGPT, like very narrow focus. Let's say banking customer service chatbot. They were trained on what are the bank conversations, what are the details related to accounts, what are the details related to different, kinds of taxes, different kinds of interests, accounts, etc. Those that was fed and it would answer. It would be reasonably well answered. But in ChatGPT, the thing about the openness is that you can answer any question on any domain in the world. So that is open nature. And that power comes from the fact that it has been pre-trained on massive data set, which has been generated from across diverse sources. So sometimes when you really have actually, instead of fine-tuned model, if you say just have the basic large language model trained on a huge corpus of data, they're usually called foundation models. So foundation models are typically trained on large amount of input data. They could be trained on image, text, speech, structured data, 3D signals, so sensor data. Multiple kinds of models can be sent. Today, in fact, I was reading, there is a time series GPT, which is trained on entirely time series data, huge amounts of. What are the use cases? We started out ChatGPT as a chat engine, right? Where you're able to answer questions. But that's not all. You can do things like follow instructions as like a human. Like you ask the instruction to paraphrase some content. Or you ask the, instruction to be given as given input document. Can you summarize it? So you can extract information, or you want to analyze sentiment in a large input source, like source of Twitter. Or you want to take images and want to provide caption, or you just want to give a prompt, like which is basically just a given kind of a text prompt, and you want to, let's say, generate a wonderful scene matching the text. Let's say I give a very interesting text, like saying that, oh, let's visualize an early morning, let's say, riverside view of Ganges in Varanasi on a typical summer morning. So they'll probably give it a scene with that background of Ghat. Now we've gone further with tools like Sora, Midjourney, etc., where you can also create beautiful photorealistic videos given a prompt. So the sky is the limit in terms of generation. Input, is different kinds of data: text, image, PDF, document, text, structured data, signals, etc. Output could be, as I said, used for answering questions, capturing images, generating videos, generating objects, generating PDFs, and extracting information, follow instructions, do English language correction, do paraphrasing. So the kind of generative AI use cases are limitless. So it's up to you to how to use the whole potential of these kind of applications and these kind of generative AI models. So one interesting thing that has come up, which is a very, very interesting concept, is how do you make the best out of the language models? How do you create a more precise, useful output from a typical LLM? That's where the prompt engineering comes up, which is basically saying that, can you look at providing a good English, which can formulate a question well, with guidelines, with constraints and examples to guide the answer. The reason why this is important is because, see, while the basic technology is able to generate patterns from the large corpus, but fine-tuning it based on what you want is governed by how you're giving the feedback. If you're giving very lightweight sentence, give me, a set of examples of use cases of, let's say, a simple thing like chatbot. On the other hand, if you give a very focused thing, like saying that, give me a guideline, give me a chatbot set of examples focused on banking domain customer service, that's a very narrow one. So that's a constraint which you're going to constrain the whole prompt. So what does prompt engineering tell you? It basically involves giving specific instructions or queries to elicit desired responses. So why is it important? Because it enhances control over the model output, it mitigates potential biases, and it kind of gives right context for your use case, because you know your use case best. So you have to see there's a right balance between specificity and generality. Well, general LLM is the expectation, but if you focus it based on a context with the right prompt, you can get very good output. So why is it useful? As I said, it's very useful for shaping interactions, understanding how you can balance specifics, context, creativity, and ultimately it allows the users to guide the model to provide you desired outputs. And every time you see specificity of the input will give you specific outputs. Not only that, it can help you in improved efficiency of the overall interaction. And it can also help you, overall improvement in an iterative manner. While you try once, then you further specify constraint, further specify like that. So that way, you're using a large hammer, but chiseling out very specific extracting points from there so that your use case is adhered to. So coming to this whole question of, what are the use cases where generative AI is useful? Why is it so relevant today? Technology has been there for some time. Computer vision technology has been there. LP technology has been there. But why today we're talking about? So there are several use cases around generative AI. The first use case, which I'll be talking about, is this whole area of software engineering. Right from software development, software requirement specification, software test specification, software test automation, generation of GUI, generation of synthetic data, generation of UX, name it. AI from generative perspective has really influenced different aspects, right from auto code completion, documentation generation, test case generation, or synthetic data generation, or customizable UX, UI, AI enabled is very common today with generative AI. Design documentation, creating personalized development tools, name it, whether it's coding, design, whether it is UX design, whether it is test case generation, test case automation, whether it is generating substrates for your data, for basic schema you give the synthetic data. I think this is just a starting point where we're seeing that future of the software industry itself is reshaped with more and more generative AI as a basically unescapable part of the whole life cycle. So my advice is you should be a friend of generative AI, use the Copilot tools for software engineering tasks rather than shy away. It's an inevitable form. It's an inevitable phenomenon. It's going to only get better and deeper. Next, if you see, there are several verticals where we can see generative AI coming into play. And these could be right from banks, financial services instruments, then healthcare, then insurance. Different scenarios can be using this whole power of generative AI, especially the document generation, the document summarization use case. So given that, what you need to look at is in a bank today, already, AI is getting there with deep learning for fraud detection, etc. But now with generative AI, we can do some very interesting additional stuff like financial literacy education, coming up with good content to educate, product recommendations, then getting compliance documents ready, which are very important from regulatory perspective. Market insights, get from real-time data and combine it with historical data and combine and generate good insights report. So there are several use cases in the banking domain where we can use the combination of general deep learning and generative AI to advance the state of the art and practice. Today, especially in the GRC domain, where governance, risk, and compliance, it's become very important that all banks adhere to and report a lot of requirements as per the guidelines like Basel, model risk management, etc. So in those domains, we see that generative AI has a very strong potential to generate the required documents based on, of course, some internal analytics and some pattern recognition. You have to do some automation. After that, you actually can go and reduce the burden of creating and cumbersome large documents. That's where generative AI is getting. In terms of retail, this is actually something where lots and lots of examples are talked about, especially from marketing perspective. So what generative AI can do is they can create customized content for marketing campaigns. They can create customized high quality content for social media consumption. Then in terms of customer service, today, I don't know whether you're aware, there's a recent case study of one company said that earlier what was being handled by 750 different use cases supported by people. Now we're doing everything with one layer on one of the LLMs. That is something which is a huge productivity improvement. So AI-enabled chatbots are going to be the future, which are going to take the chatbot technology to next level with being able to capture many, many different use cases. So thereby it will increase the response quality. It will improve customer retention. It will improve first call resolution. It will reduce the support costs, etc. Then we have scenarios where, virtual merchandising and product design in retail can use of the photorealistic images and videos generated by Gen AI to really transform this whole experience and create really nice smart videos which people will use to really go through. The click-through ratios will improve. So for example, what you can identify, let's say I want to start a campaign around, let's say, a new brand of shoes I'm trying to launch. I can use generative AI technology to generate very smart new videos, which will project the merchandise in a very, very new kind of a video, sell it. So all I'm saying is in retail, sky is the limit. There are other areas like virtual try-on. You can really, predict the right size based on. Or you can also use that in dynamic pricing for price optimization by using very interesting analyzing the historical documents, etc. Then from government perspective, this is again very important. While I talked about verticals, representative, retail and banking, but that's not the limit. We can do in healthcare, we can do in insurance, etc. Let's look at governments. So today, I don't know how many of you are aware, but in India, there is a new initiative by government to provide a multilingual, generative AI concept called Bhashini, which is available in all the typical Indian languages. So they're making available the citizen services on these government powered chatbots so that the government services, citizens' queries, etc., can be resolved. So this helps in really making government services accessible to people in a multilingual manner so that the reach is much larger. Then you can have very, very, very different use cases from multilingual support perspective, like making available the documentation, which is for different government services, etc., in different languages. Then from repetitive task automation, enhancing emergency response, etc., also generative AI can be used. So overall, whether it is government, whether it is verticals, I think this is an area where we are going to see an irreversible penetration of generative AI. And that's why it's relevant. We saw horizontal applications like CRM, like customer service. We saw vertical applications like, say, visual merchandising in retail, or in government, like making available government services information to all people in multilingual format. So along with that, one element which touches all of us, which is this whole notion of what I call as personal productivity. Personal productivity is about we are daily using useful tools like Word, document, PowerPoint, Excel. So there are different add-ons of generative AI in all of them. Like in Excel, you can break down, say, data by type of the data channel and insert a table. And just using generative AI, you can generate a chart. This, of course, there earlier, but now it's become much easier. Just by simple words, you can generate all the time. Copilot in Word, you can generate summarization. You can create new paragraphs remaining similar to existing paragraphs. PowerPoint, you can create amazing new presentation given the basic bullet points. So today there are lots of tools which are AI powered, which are coming in the area of personal productivity. Every day I hear some new top 20 AI, generative AI productivity tools. I think there's a huge uptake of this among all the people. So advice to everyone is don't be afraid, go ahead, experiment, work with the different kinds of data out there, try to use them in your practical scenario, and at the same time, reap the benefits of the high quality and really high fidelity content that comes out. It could be word content, it could be video content, it could be PowerPoint content, or it could even be something like a summarization of existing content. So what is happening because of this personal productivity use case is that the average time a user has to spend in creating very smart content, whether it's a powerful PowerPoint or whether it's creating a very business-oriented document, or whether it is creating something like a visual dashboard of the data that is present in the Excel. It is accessible to everyone. So I think one of the biggest benefit we're seeing in personal productivity is the improved self-service capability of people, where they can do it on their own without needing for everyone to go to specialists to do dashboard creation, or to do PowerPoint very specialized creation, or to create summarization or very powerful documentation, etc. So as I said, we looked at applications in different domains. We saw at a very basic level, we saw software engineering, software development life cycle. Then in this case, we saw from documentation of software to generating requirements, to creating code, autocomplete code, test generation, test case, UX generation, UX, generated by UI is today practically an irreversible phenomena. Then we looked at different verticals like banks, insurance, and also not to say anything less, but governments, like they're also very, very serious about it. I can go on and on about different verticals and the different use cases. For example, today in the insurance domain, there's a lot of documentation which goes on with the audit trails related to the compliance. And those are something which you can really get a huge help from using generative AI in the insurance domain for generating those risk-related documentation. So in healthcare, for example, people are talking about, can you create a good summary of some of the FDA supposed to be reported, incidents of malfunctioning, etc. that's happening. So there can be really good summarization that can happen from tools out there. So in every domain, you can see generative AI has the power to go out and transform. And in personal productivity, it is applicable to every citizen, every user, every you can say potential customer in their own daily use. We can use them for Excel, Word, PowerPoint, or likewise products. But is this all like, we are talking good things, great things, but what is the caveat? You need to understand that while AI generated content, AI generated campaign, AI generated tool, AI generated graph, they're all great. But you need to understand that we have to also deal with the negative side of it. That is why we need to work with proper policies and adequate tools to reduce the harm of bad content. So for example, AI tools can generate factually incorrect statements called hallucinations. So you should put processes to make sure that people are not blindly taking the content, and work with testing tools for testing the accuracy. Well, AI tools can be assistive, but they cannot replace, sometimes in very, very specialized domains, human interactions cannot be, really avoided. And in a lot of education institutions, especially, AI tool usage probably is an irreversible phenomenon. So you cannot take a negative view of that, but you should try to something where you're talking about really a coexistence kind of a scenario where along with you, the AI tool will also be there. Then pedagogical outcomes need to be revised in domains where, in fact, AI tools can generate very clear and very high quality attributes based on prompts. Whereas if the AI tools were not used, you would have to struggle a lot. So there's a tendency that we want to either look at pedagogical outcomes to be revised based on how you're targeting the use case by use of these tools, rather than saying that you need to do everything ground up. Then you need to understand that there needs to be proper tools for plagiarism detection where you can detect AI generated. But from an education perspective, make sure that students are knowing that whatever they're submitting is their responsibility. So in that context, I think where we're heading is this an irreversible phenomenon, whether it is in education, whether it is in pedagogy. So we have to evolve our pedagogical techniques, pedagogical rules, pedagogical process also to make sure that we work. Along with that, we also have to face the reality of the generative AI technology. Are we really seeing that it's all rosy? As I said, extending the concepts we studied in the context of educational misuse of these tools, we have to be worried about misinformation, deep fakes, deceptive content. They are so much so worried that this year, a lot of elections across the globe will be influenced by generative AI generated misinformation, fake news, bias and discrimination. You have to make sure that you have to work towards mitigating biases in the data which may creep into the biases of the performance of the LLMs. Privacy concerns. This is very important. We need to know that when you're working with LLMs, if you have PIIs, you should be careful about whether you're using it to train the model and make sure that it is not sent without right level of anonymization. Malicious use, cyber attacks, automated spam, deep fakes, deep fake of images, deep fake of audio, sabotage. Imagine the kind of misuse that is possible. Transparency, lack of transparency. Basically, whatever is the source of data which you have used for training, it's not very transparent. A lot of LLMs are not very transparent. That's why you call it intransparence. So, and then we look at two main, you can say, sociological implications. That is like consequences of job market. Are you saying that in creative industries, there are possibilities of replacement of copywriters? In education system, what are the ethical implications of using tools for assignments, etc.? Then, and kind of a challenge which is very real and very much in line with the current concerns of climate change is the concept of environmental harms. The LLMs and generative AI technologies are known to be highly energy consuming. Can we work on reducing that footprint? So these are some of the things which are from a negative perspective you have to keep really track and work towards mitigating the risks of generative AI so that it becomes more and more accessible to people. And at the same time, is this whole emerging area of what is called as responsible generative AI. So what is the idea of responsible generative AI? That's what is a concept of what we call as responsible generative AI is all about, can you bring transparency using explainable and interpretable AI technologies to augment your current LLMs? Can you think about security, adversarial attacks, especially prompt injection attacks, etc., on LLMs? Can you ensure privacy and make sure that PIIs are not leaked into training or fine-tuning of this model? Then from ethical perspective, bias and fairness. And ultimately, we need to have a proper testing regime, whether right from evaluation measures to continuous testing of quality, removing hallucinations, removing biases, removing privacy, leakages, removing security threats, introducing a lot of explainability. So I think we are seeing the emergence of this whole risk mitigation for generative AI also as an emerging field, and which I think will pick up more and more steam as we see more and more whether foundation models or custom generative models fine-tuned for specific tasks. In all of these domains, I think responsible generative AI will become a mainstream and it will be an important requirement. So with that, I'll conclude. It was covering a lot of ground of all various set of topics, right from positives to the negatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your great insights on this AI. So, sir, I have a question. There is a buzz going on. Like AI can take lots of job. Like as you discussed, there is we can create a content and video graphics, UI, UX design by using a simple tool and in a like very short time. So, how to respond that change?
It is an irreversible change. I don't think we have to fight it, but rather face it and start changing our attitude to life, which is very simple. In earlier version of automation with IT itself coming and doing a lot of human jobs, like let's say cashier jobs in banks were replaced by tellers, right? ATMs. ATMs are replaced conventional bank jobs. So it just happened in the past. It's not new. And every generation, when technology has happened, it has improved productivity, and people have moved on. The only answer to that is learnability. Instead of talking about, oh, my current job is gone, you talk about, can you overcome it? Can you become a businessman by selling AI generated art? Or can you bring your own self to be a specialist in AI generated content rather than you being the content writer? Or there can be other aspects which is very important, like I said, right? Can you come up as an play expert in responsible content moderator, where you so with every technology you get new kinds of jobs also. So I can list you at least 5 different new jobs that are getting generated because of this. One I can see is somebody who is an ethics officer, or somebody who is an ethics agent who will test the ethical you know performance, how the generative AI is doing things ethically or not. Then there will be people who will be what I call as AI assisted customer service specialist. Rather than customer service agent, will become AI assisted customer service. So I think we have to go with the times, and you have to revise your job profiles and learn. The only thing that can take you an insurance policy against all of this is learnability. So people with AI skills will replace people without AI skills. That is the truth, rather than generally saying that AI will replace people.
Sure, got it. So another thing is you discussed about the deep fake videos and leak of.
Yeah, the question of deep fakes, deep audio fakes is real. So only thing what I can say is this has to be combined with two things: policies from government perspective, where they're strict about bringing laws. Second thing is there has to be awareness at every individual level, where they are more aware whether something that's coming out, is it real or is it fake. Then there should be technologies. There are a lot of technologies coming up where we can detect deep fakes and make sure that it's available to the common public. So it will be very similar to what happened with the viruses. So we will have technologies and we'll have awareness. So it will be a combination of people, process, and technology.
Yeah, sure, got it. Thank you so much for your invaluable insights on AI. So your inspiration for AI is truly inspiring one, a great learning. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.